The Holy Gospel of our Lord Jesus Christ according to Matthew.
Glory to you, Lord Christ.
Jesus said, "You have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, 'You shall not murder,' and whoever murders shall be liable to judgment. But I say to you that if you are angry with a brother or sister, you will be liable to judgment. And if you insult a brother or sister, you will be liable to the council. And if you say, 'You fool,' you will be liable to the hell of fire. So when you are offering your gift at the altar, if you remember that your brother or sister has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go. First be reconciled to your brother or sister, and then come and offer your gift. Come to terms quickly with your accuser while you're on your way to court with him, or your accuser may hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the guard, and you will be thrown into prison. Truly, I tell you, you will never get out until you have paid the last penny. You have heard that it was said, 'You shall not commit adultery.' But I say to you that everyone who looks at a woman with lust has already committed adultery with her in his heart. If your right eye causes you to sin, tear it out and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to be thrown into hell. And if your right hand causes you to sin, cut it off and throw it away. It is better for you to lose one of your members than for your whole body to go into hell. It was also said, 'Whoever divorces his wife, let him give her a certificate of divorce.' But I say to you that anyone who divorces his wife, except on the ground of unchastity, causes her to commit adultery, and whoever marries a divorced woman commits adultery. Again, you have heard that it was said to those of ancient times, 'You shall not swear falsely, but carry out the vows you have made to the Lord.' But I say to you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make one hair black or white. Let your word be yes, yes, or no, no. Anything more than this comes from the evil one.
The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Christ.
The theme of today's lessons could be called Personal Responsibility Sunday. I think that would be a good American name for this Sunday. I'm saying this because I kind of jumped there reflexively myself as I was going through the readings. I wonder if something similar came to you as these readings were landing for you. We could take these intense texts with a sort of a conservative seasoning of pull yourself together and be better. Or we could have a liberal seasoning of don't worry too much. We've grown beyond these kind of older strictures and teachings. Those are caricatures, obviously. But those caricatures, they reveal the hazard of being too quick to spice the text with our own cultural preferences. I was once admonished, never salt your food until you've tasted it first. So I think reflexively identifying today as Personal Responsibility Sunday, which maybe just comes to us through our cultural lens, it's maybe like salting a meal and then declaring that it just tasted salty to me. Maybe the chef had an intention for this meal before we tried spicing it ourselves. So might there be some distinctive native flavor to God's recipe here? Some flavor that's underneath personal responsibility that's worth us tasting. Scholars who are wiser than me say yes, yes. And that flavor would be called Torah, translated in Greek as nomos, and then translated in English as the law. So we have to dig our way down through those layers, law, nomos, to get to Torah, the taste of Torah. The law, and I'm conscious that there are those in this room much more well acquainted with the law than me. So the law might for us be a set of mutual agreements. Sometimes in the common way we think about the law, it might be a disciplinary rubric, or sometimes something that we have to slog through, or a kind of elaborate word game that some people understand better than others. Often we experience the law as a kind of backstop when all the other options have failed. Maybe at its best, we might say that if we make good laws, then they give us a kind of group fairness that applies to everyone, a set of guidelines that could support us to go somewhere together into our goals, into the possibilities of our community. But God isn't necessarily involved. In the way we usually talk about law, God doesn't have to show up, really. Nomos, the Greek word, is kind of a filter between, it's a half step between Torah and law as we have it in our text. Nomos is law, but especially it might be used, I read, to describe any system of religious thinking. Especially it hews closer to Torah than our usage of law, in that nomos has the sense of a force that is concrete and demands, it impels action. It's not a backstop. In nomos, there is something external and likely divine that is sending us. Even nomos, it derives from the word for feeding or grazing animals. So it's like a law that is given to us as a sustenance, a nutrient. And that gets us very close, finally, down to Torah, which derives from the Hebrew word for instruct. Torah is, as one writer put it, the revelation of God's will, a divine blueprint for action. Torah is a gift and privilege given to Israel. Acting upon Torah is a privileged way of responding to the Creator God. Responding to the law is a privilege given to the people of God. And I love this. Our acting upon Torah presupposes the prior manifestation of God's love. This is just a hair different from how we usually talk about the law. The flip from how I think about law to how the Hebrews received Torah is the flip from law that's like a gatekeeper that we have to live up to, that we have to get through in order to get into God's presence and love, to Torah as what we get to do, how we get to live, thanks to God's loving presence being given to us right from the start. Is it a little different than how we think about personal responsibility, if that's just kind of thrown out there? I think Torah is underneath personal responsibility. It gives life and energy to whatever personal responsibility might be. And so I had the sense that Torah indicates maybe a better word for us, a better phrase, personal responsiveness, because something was given to us first and we're living out of that. Instead of being accountable to a law, instead we could be responding back to the Torah gift. Just an aside, you know, in stewardship season, we spend a lot of time in gratitude and giving from gratitude. We do that not because it just works nicely for stewardship season, but because gratitude is a ground, a deep ground under stewardship and all of life for the people of God, the Jewish people, Christian people. that is just as applicable here to these moral teachings, to personal actions in the world all throughout the year. That we're doing all of those as a response to what first God gave to us, Torah. So if we come back to what Jesus says in today's gospel, what might we find there if we imagine that we are receiving it as Jesus's deepening of the Torah gift? Jesus is not giving us these greater words to make it harder for us to get to God by heightening all the rules. Now, you don't just have to figure out how to not club someone. You got to also figure out how to not get angry at them. Good luck. No, Jesus is letting us know that God's Torah gift, God's gift of instruction to us, is so transformative that living from that love has the power not only to help us not club someone, but it has the power even to transform us inwardly, so that wrongful anger towards another person might even drop away from us. God has given us Torah that is such a gift that we might not only manage to not adulter, maybe even, Jesus says, we could be transformed to the point where we would inwardly honor everyone around us, even with the thoughts of our heart and of our mind. You might not only manage to not break divorce laws, you might come inwardly to a place of appreciating, and I will say, whether in marriage or divorce when needed, you might come to a place of appreciating the social impact of your marriage relationship and living with that kind of depth. And in light of the Torah gift that has been promised to us, we might lay down our own eagerness to make our own promises and oaths out in the world, whether by heaven or earth or our own head and might. Maybe all of those promises would give way to some humility inwardly, where we would just rely on the first promise, the one that came from God, and let our yes be yes and our no be no. Torah is a gift and privilege given to Israel. Acting upon it is a privileged way of responding to the Creator God. It presupposes the prior manifestation of God's love. So the rules are not, get back to our seasonings. The rules here sitting before us, they're not just left to the strength of our human will. Be better. I actually had someone say that to me one time. Reed, just be better. Like, oh, I'll just take a deep breath and do that then. No, our human will is involved, but encased and infused with the first love of God. Like this suit of light that we're put on, that has been given to us, through which we're, with God's help, able to live into, to respond, to have a responsiveness to the gift. And these rules, these instructions from Jesus and from God, they're not just a dusty old rule that thankfully we've grown beyond needing to look back at old texts like this and we can make it up, or it's just sort of a, it's more society's problem than my problem. They can still be real and sharpening for our lives, but as a law that comes from beyond us, given to us as a gift from God, that calls each of us and all of us forward, that we live out of it as a gift. So trying to take a page from the humility advocated in this text about our own oaths and our own brilliance, I do not expect that I have in these few words really known the whole flavor, the original flavor of Torah here. But maybe gotten a little bit closer to what the flavor of Torah might be for us before we sprinkle on all our own seasonings. That maybe we could call this 6th Sunday after Epiphany Personal Responsiveness Sunday.